On today's show, we feature magician Rob Teszka.
Welcome to Magic Mike's Castle webcast and podcast. Imagine a world in which you can't trust your eyes, your memories can be manipulated, and your decisions subtly influenced. A world in which impossible things happen right in front of you. You already live in that world. Rob Teszka combines innovative cognitive psychology with over a decade of performance experience to illustrate the most magical phenomena of the human mind and reveal a hidden side of reality. Rob performs his unique take on magic in a variety of venues in British Columbia, from Vancouver to Whistler, and throughout the Lower Mainland, where he is based in Coquitlam. His performances are suitable for private bookings, including banquets, parties, club meetings, gallery openings, late nights at museums, and corporate events. Once a month, he produces and hosts the Parlor Magic Show. For nearly a decade, Rob performed throughout England, including regular spots at the Magician's Showcase at the London Improv Theatre, the Illusioneer Magic Theatre, and craft beer and crafty tricks at the Priory Arms. Rob became an associate member of the Inner Magic Circle, where he hosted parlor magic shows and gave interactive tours of the museum as an assistant curator. Whether you require strolling magic for an unforgettable party or would like a truly unique and engaging corporate event, Rob Teszka will tailor his performances to your specific needs.
And we're back with magician Rob Teszka. I'm so excited and honored to have you on today's show, Rob. I've been enjoying watching your magic for some time, and I've loved everything I've seen you do, and particularly some of your coin work. Now, I'm going to talk to the lay people and regular people at the same time without giving anything away. They won't get this anyway, regular folks. You remind me, your style reminds me of both Slidini, believe it or not, and Di Vernon, who for some reason in the States they call Dave Vernon, but it's Di Vernon. And that wasn't meant as a compliment, it was meant as fact. It's like you're so good, you're so smooth, you're so natural looking in your moves. Regular people wouldn't know you're doing a move, or regular people wouldn't know anything's going on, and that's the whole idea. You've been into magic many, many years, and I've noticed on your website you have the Magic Circle logo. And what's the significance for you about it?
So, the Magic Circle is a very old club in London, England. I think it's, if not the first, probably the second first magic club ever formed. And they have a permanent meeting space and performance venue in central London, where I lived for 7 years while I was studying the psychology of magic as part of graduate research. And I became a member of the club primarily for access to their library, so that I could do research from these primary sources of magic books and pamphlets and magazines that they have in their wonderful library downstairs in their club room. And it was during this time that I started attending magic lectures that they host there, just hanging out with people in the club room, sessioning, over a pint or two after lectures, and just getting back into magic, which I had studied really feverishly as a teenager, but I had sort of put aside when I went to university and into graduate school. But I rediscovered my love of it, and I volunteered as a host. They have public shows at the Magic Circle, and they rely on club members to volunteer as MCs to introduce the acts that are coming to do parlor or stage magic. And I fell right back into it. and started performing monthly at a showcase called the Magician's Showcase at the London Improv Theatre, and taking this craft more seriously of performing. I had been really into close-up magic prior to this, and it was here that I discovered more of a love of parlor and stage, magic performed for intimate audiences, but still this sort of theatrical style. And I auditioned to become not just a member of the Magic Circle, because I had passed my audition to become a basic member in order to get access to the library and start attending lectures, but it was out of volunteering to host these shows and doing other stuff, helping around the club, that someone suggested I audition to become an associate of the Inner Magic Circle, which is kind of the next rank up. And I worked so hard on it. I developed a 10-minute set. I worked it as often as I could. I got feedback from some of my friends there, some of the best magicians who were members of the club. And the audition for AIMC was doing a public performance. Like the regular membership audition, you do it just for the members of the Magic Circle. But this AIMC thing, they have this monthly show on a Saturday called the Ali Bongo Family Show, where it's, I think, only £5 or £10 tickets for friends and family of Magic Circle members. And so I performed my 10-minute sets 4 times for members of the public that had come in for the Ali Bongo Saturday show. One of the performances went completely wrong. I do this card divination, which relies on spectator following my instructions very carefully and my own memory not failing me. Both failed during this performance, so I got the divination completely dead wrong. I thought I was done for, but luckily the examiners that were grading me had watched other performances that I had done, and so they knew that this was just a one-off error, and so they decided not to let it count against me. And so a couple of weeks later, I received my AIMC, diploma, and I had earned a silver star, which is the highest grade you can achieve by performance. So it's probably the thing I've worked the hardest to earn, and is, I think, justifiably one of the things that I'm most proud of. So I put the Magic Circle logo on my site, and I also proudly wear the white AIMC lapel pin.
And rightfully so. How exciting is that? So many folks out there don't realize the kind of work and dedication is involved in magic and the whole psychology behind it. I have a friend, a lawyer, who's in New York City, and she's high up in the Society of American Magicians, and she and a group of other magicians, psychologists, etc., are writing a book just on the whole psychology of magic. And I'll be speaking with her a little bit later about that, because I'll be writing another book which we'll talk about some other time. I'd like to get you involved in that, Rob.
The psychology of magic is a favorite topic of mine.
It's so important too. I mean, and I don't mean to put down magic on social media and all that sort of thing, but we tend to see so many people, young and old, and they do very visual magic. There's nothing wrong with that. At least magic is out there for many, many people to witness, to see. But at the same time, you can just go out and buy a trick or order it online or whatever, and it'll make you look like a pro. It won't give you necessarily the presentation capabilities. It won't necessarily give you the script, both mental as well as verbal, to carry off a miracle. But, it looks pretty good. And I have such mixed emotions around social media magic, particularly on Instagram and all of them, because I won't kid myself or you or anybody out there. I love watching magic. I always have, I always will. Moreover, I love doing magic. But we know, I'll say we know the work that's involved with it. And can you imagine just buying a trick that's mechanical and it looks incredible? Maybe it's a color change or something visual that happens right away, and you're just doing it and that's it. You know, I can't imagine doing that. Can you?
No, it's something that actually bugs me a lot of when I see other magicians perform. Not even just on social media or for the camera. In person performances that lack, I guess, lack personality. It's as if they forgot that they're sharing something interesting, and it becomes more of a look what I can do, which can work under certain circumstances. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how I started when I was in elementary, high school, whatever. Look what I can do. Here's a thing I can do that you can't. And that's enough to maintain a little bit of interest for a little while. But, you know, audiences will quickly tire if you are just showing off something cool that you can do that they can't. Especially if it's clear that you can do it simply because you purchased it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
the question then becomes for every magician to think about and answer, how do I express why I find this so interesting in a way that is engaging to the audience? And I mean, it's a question that I've been trying to answer for a long time, and I'm still spiraling around it, still finding, because it changes over time as well. The reasons that I perform magic now are not the same as the reasons that I did when I first learned it.
Absolutely. Same with me as well. I think as we grow and evolve as human beings, our tastes change. But what's so crucial in my eyes, to me, is engaging an audience. Whether it's a little kid audience, a children's birthday party, whether it's an adult show, full evening show, or a cabaret show, you want to have them invest something, a part of themselves in it. And I use humor a lot. And then I trick them. Like there's so many different routes. There's so many various ways to accomplish things in magic. Sometimes storytelling. I'm very fascinated by magicians out there will know this term, by bizarre magic it's called. Other people might call it arcane magic, but there's often a story behind it. And for me, as I get older, as I evolve as well, I feel it's so important to have theater, magic as theater. Magic is theater. Magic is an art. Magic is theater. And I've spoken to many people on the air about this, and all of them agree. There should be some kind of structure, whether even the audience is consciously aware or not, a beginning, a middle, and end. And even if it's as simple as an effect we call the professor's nightmare, or the 3-rope trick, for lack of a better term, the first part, the introduction, you're introducing the props. You're introducing the players, if you will. And then the middle part, the second part, chapter 2, whatever you want to call it, act 2, is what goes on, is what's happening. And hopefully you're engaging them right from the, I'm going to say, get-go. I've been living out west too long. I'm going to say get-go, right from the beginning. Hopefully you've engaged them with an emotional hook or some kind of hook or something interesting. And then finally, the climax, the what I call payoff, if you will. Boom. And it could be a surprise. It could be a mystification, if that is indeed a word. Something. But all good magic, all good theater has that structure, and character is so important. People may not be consciously aware, but as a former theater person, I had my training by the director of a children's theater in Winnipeg many years ago, too many years ago. So I know about pacing, and I know about, even how to stand, even how to sit, and all that sort of thing, how to project. to a 200-seat audience without a microphone. I know, or I believe you have that background as well, or it shows, it appears that you walk out on that stage or you walk out onto the platform and you're commanding the audience and you just appear to be a regular guy. But if someone just has a bit of a brain, they see more than that. Do they not?
Yeah, I do have a background. I've been doing, community theater in school, in university. I've been taking regular acting classes and workshops in all kinds of different types of performance throughout my entire life. I mean, I think I was first on stage in a school play in grade 5 or 6 or something. They were trying to cast someone to play the Grinch in the Christmas play, and they had people auditioning, grade 5, to see who could make the biggest Grinchly smile, and that was it, off to the races, It's not just theater background, but magicians often forget that they're interacting with audiences.
Yes.
So the kind of performance that is important for engaging with an audience who is there with you and who is interacting with you, and you're, feeding off of them as well. So it's not just theater. You got to be doing some stuff that's about that interaction. Improvisation. People are not going to always behave the way you're expecting them to. Things are going to go wrong. You have to be present in the moment. I have had training in clown. The West Coast here in British Columbia, we have a great tradition of clown training. And my friend and colleague who directed my recent show at the Fringe is a trained clown. And that is huge for, connecting with an audience and really expressing emotions in a way that everyone is feeling.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so exciting. We're going to pause for a moment, and then we're going to come back to talk more magic with Rob Teszka. We'll see you in a moment.
Producer and host of his specials on social media based on his magical books of the same name, Dr. Michael, Magic Mike Likey, is also a clinical hypnotherapist and doctor of theocentric psychology. Having performed more than 250 shows a year in the mid-80s and 90s, he also produced and starred in the world's longest regularly produced TV shows in Winnipeg, Canada for 9 years, and guested regularly on broadcast television and starred in A Medieval Feast for 10 years. Star of stage and television, Magic Mike Likey performs illusions large and small and will teach you the secrets of the magical arts, both in person and virtually. This is Magic Mike Likey.
And we're back with magician Rob Teszka, and I want to talk about all that you've contributed, even just locally, to the world of magic, because I've lived all across Canada. I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this because I just have done that. I've been fortunate enough to start out east and end up here. If I go any more west, there's the water, so that's not going to happen. And all over North America, I visited and performed. And what I've found is if any place, any city, large or small, can have magic, at least at one restaurant or one bar or something. When I first moved out west, not here, and I love the city, so I'm not putting it down, but I moved out west. I moved from a major metropolitan center where magic was everywhere. There wasn't a restaurant or bar you couldn't walk into where a magician wouldn't accost you, wouldn't, and I say that with love, would come up to your table and do something. And to me, that was life. I grew up with that. I grew up with magic 24/7 on television in Montreal and just all this sort of thing. And then I move out west and it's like, whoa. So not my tagline, but how I got people to hire me was I'd say, well, magic is everywhere. You walk into any restaurant in TO or Florida or New York, and there's magicians there. And so they saw that right away as a way to make money. And that's awesome. And I saw that as a way to do what I love, one of the things that I love doing. And I'm giving people and possibly yourself this info because I was so excited to hear about a place called Jaeger's. And just when we were set, my wife and I, to come down and visit, boom, COVID struck. I missed one performance because a mutual friend of ours who is now gone assumes that I knew about this, about Jaeger's, and he and Reg Donnelly and all these other magicians we all know showed up, and I hear from Reg the next day, oh, it was so good, it was so good, did you see this guy Rob? And I said, oh, I meant to, I didn't realize it was last night. I'll catch it next month or next week or whenever, you know, the subsequent show is to be. And then COVID struck. But what still excites me is you're in that world of magic and theater, bringing it public, bringing it to the people, if you will. And I'm hoping you'll talk more about this right now, your credits as far as local things. I know you just did, you mentioned this production on Granville Island. I think it ran a week or several days, and just hosting. So let's talk.
Sure. So I like you, because I lived in London, magic is everywhere there as well. I mean, like, I could rattle off, there was, you know, the Magic Cave, you know, craft tricks and craft beer at the Priory Arms, the Illusioneer Theatre in Herne Hill, Magic Circle itself, there was the Magician's Showcase in the London Improv Theatre, and many more besides, more that have started since I moved away. You could pick any night of the week in any neighborhood of London, and you could find magic to watch. And so when I moved back here, and I realized that there was no place that you could go to guarantee you'd see magic. I mean, if you picked the right day, the right time, and you went to Granville Island, you could find magicians busking. And that was about it. So it was out of a sense of like, this makes no sense to me, that I decided I need to start a monthly magic show, some kind of variety show even, because there's a huge stand-up comedy scene. Improv is huge here. The burlesque and cabaret scene in Vancouver, it just boggles my mind that magic wasn't right in there with everything. And there are, of course, people who have been performing magic within those venues, because that's where it was an opportunity to perform. So, you know, Sean Coverton and Travis Bernhardt performing with the burlesque shows, especially around Halloween with things like the Abracadabra Cabaret. Wes Barker working the comedy clubs. But beyond that, there was no place specifically for magic. And I waffled on it for a long time. I mean, I spent maybe a year thinking about, like, would this even work? What venue should I use? Asking people, chatting with them. With Wes and Travis, we did a test run at the Kino Cafe. It's on Canby, I think. And it is a sort of cafe that is famous as being a comedy venue. They've got pictures of the comedians that have worked there up there. The owner is a huge lover of comedy. They have a nice little, you know, stand-up wooden platform stage. And Wes headlined. We got a whole bunch of people to come in and perform. Sean Farquhar came as well. I did a bit in it, and it worked. And the place was packed, standing room only. And so it kind of was that little switch that went, okay, there's a taste for magic here. People would like to see more. So a couple of months later, I finally was like, okay, let's do this. I'm going to start it. The venue will be Jaeger's. They have this back room. And that, more than anything, was an accident. I was still kind of waffling on it, but I'm part of a social group here that sometimes meets there called the Skeptics in the Pub. And I went for an event they had there, and the manager came out and was chatting with me and one of the organizers of the event. And he mentioned that I performed magic. And the manager there was like, oh, well, we have an opening on second Tuesdays of the month. You want to come perform magic here? And that was the final kick in the pants that I was like, okay, I have the opportunity literally being handed to me. Let's say yes. And so I scrambled. I tried to organize the first 3 months of shows just by contacting everyone I knew in town, being like, okay, I think you'd be good to open. I think you'd be good to close. I want to give people an opportunity who have less experience performing to fill in the middle. I want there to be a variety act so that it's not just magic, there's something to break it up. The gears started turning. And the first show sold out. The second show sold out. The third show almost sold out. They had 2 people walk out partway through. But they all went really, really well. And then the pandemic happened. But I didn't let that stop me. I tried moving the next couple of shows online. So the first online show during the pandemic was to raise money for the Red Cross and for the WHO's COVID Recovery Fund. The show after that was to raise money for Black Lives Matter and for the Hogan's Alley Society here in Vancouver. And I sort of kept trying to keep it going. I did one where I was able to, because it's virtual, I'm no longer limited to just locally available. So I featured some of the magicians that were my colleagues and friends when I was living in England with the British Invasion special. And it's just been so gratifying to see that people are enjoying it. There's a taste for magic, that there's enough magicians that it seems that they, I haven't had a repeat performer at all. And I think I could do another 2 or 3 shows without having a repeat performance.
I believe you could.
Absolutely. Over a year of no repeat material, all really solid, great magic, so that I can have, repeat audience coming. Because that's the thing. The room at Jaeger's is very intimate. It's a local joint. Not a lot of walk-ins. People are coming there specifically because they want to see the magic, because they, hear from their friends or family, hey, this magician I know. And so, I don't know. I have a Google document full of thoughts about how to market the show, how to plan ahead, when to ask people if they want to perform. And I managed to keep it going even, into the pandemic. And it was wild because, literally, the week before the first show, it was just still an idea I had, a plan to do sometime maybe in the future. And I'm so glad that when the manager of Jaeger's was like, we have a room for you, and I was like, okay, sure, let's see.
Awesome, and we're all glad as well.
We're going to take a brief break and talk more with Rob Teszka.
Enjoy Magic Mike Likey's animated cartoons, comic books, CDs, and DVDs available from Amazon. He is also the author of more than 45 self-help alternative wellness books, as well as instructional magic books, all available from Amazon. Published in international magicians' trade journals, Magic Mike Likey is a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians and the Society of American Magicians.
We're back with magician Rob Teszka, and Rob has kindly offered, with a little bit of cajoling and insistence on my part, to share a magic effect. So, let's have a look.
Sure. I've brought a number of things, lying around here. We spoke earlier about psychology, so I do have probably the effect that I have done the most often opening shows with it, is about the psychology of magic. We spoke earlier about my coin work. Less confident with this routine, but I do have coins with me. And I also have this bag here with me, which contains what I was using to open the show at the Fringe Festival. So, your choice. Which would you like to see?
So
All 3, I assume. But
you mean it's the magician's choice? Lay people won't know what we just said, and that's a good thing. In any case, I'm so tempted to, because I'm curious, to let the cat out of the bag. So maybe we'll use the bag, the third item.
Absolutely. One of my other great loves, aside from magic, is cocktails. And I'm a huge fan of tiki cocktails in particular. This is a swizzle stick from a tiki bar. I have a collection of, many of these, and tiki mugs as well, all arranged here behind me. Tiki bars, right? Dark woods, lots of bamboo, appropriated Polynesian decor. You get the idea. But the crowning achievement of the tiki bar is the Mai Tai cocktail. You ever had a Mai Tai?
Oh, sure.
They're delicious, right?
Yep.
Lots of fruit juice, rum, spices. They were invented in the 40s by Trader Vic, who served it to some guests who exclaimed in Tahitian, Mai Tai Roa E, which roughly translates to out of this world. If only every bartender had given it as much care. Because soon, the very worst thing to ever happen to cocktails would be introduced. The lurid red cocktail cherry. Disgusting. Boo! Boo the cherry! Boo! No. According to the FDA, these cherries aren't even considered edible. No, they might as well be made out of plastic. If I had my way, drinks would never use these horrible little red cherries again. But they keep showing up whether you want them to or not. Despicable. Now, it's not the cherries that bug me so much as what they represent. This movement in the 60s and 70s, 80s, to start being cheap on ingredients, to get rid of the craft that went into cocktails and start replacing things with more sugar, more synthetic. If I had my way, I would make these awful little things disappear. But it's not that easy. So I went to a hotel bar because they had a Mai Tai on the menu just to see how bad things had gone. And when I ordered it, it came out neon orange, sweet as hummingbird nectar, and worst of all, it had 2 goddamn cherries! These satanic testicles ruin every single drink they touch. No, there is only one fruit that belongs in a properly made Mai Tai, and that is the juice of a single freshly squeezed lime. Although, sometimes you need 2. Mai Tai Roa E, everybody.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant from both a magician's perspective and I'm sure a layperson's perspective.
It's fantastic, fantastic. I love that. People want to reach you. I'm putting out that signal. They want to get in contact with you. How can they?
Well, if they'd like to find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Rob Teszka Magic. And Teszka is spelled T-E-S-Z-A-A. It's a Polish name. And you can find me on Instagram as well, Rob Teszka Performs, and on Twitter, @RobTeszka. And of course, the website, Rob Teszka Magic.
Rob, thank you so much for joining us this day. Hopefully you'll come back and grace us with more magic in the new year.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Rob.
And I want to thank all of you out there for joining us this day. We'll see you all really soon.